As Setsu sits at his table lost in thought during his break, his childhood friend Yui suddenly appears, interrupting his reverie. He lets out a deep sigh and reminds her that they shouldn't be seen together as he doesn't want any rumors to circulate about them. But Yui brushes off his concerns, insisting that their long-standing friendship should be enough to dispel any false rumors. Despite Setsu's protests, she continues to chat with him, reminiscing about old times and catching up on each other's lives. Yui doesn't mince words and points out how long Setsu's hair has grown, which she thinks makes him look gloomy. She kindly offers to cut it for him, to which Setsu gratefully agrees. While he ponders the situation in the other world, the sky abruptly darkens, and a mysterious magic circle materializes under their feet. The sudden turn of events catches Yui off guard, but Setsu knows the feeling all too well. A blinding light envelops them, and the students were thrown into a state of panic as they found themselves suddenly transported to an unknown location. Setsu's initial surprise quickly gave way to realization, and a mischievous smile spread across his face, embracing the thrill of the unfolding events. As the student tried to make sense of the situation, the sound of approaching knights in black armor caught their attention. Setsu sensed that they were being controlled by cursed energy and warned the others. As the demons charged toward them, the students scattered in different directions, trying to avoid being caught. To their surprise, the demons seemed to target Setsu, but Yui bravely shielded him from harm. As the demon closed in on them, Setsu flicked his finger, sending the demon flying away. Yui was bewildered by the display of power, but Setsu quickly ushered her away from the danger. As they ran, they noticed an army of soldiers charging past them, engaged in the battle against the demons. The soldiers struggle, but a squadron of mages unleashes a barrage of fire on the demons, managing to take some of them out. As the battle rages on, Setsu finds it odd that the war against demons should have already ended. As the students look around nervously, Alka appears before them, questioning why they are in such a perilous location. She assures them that the Royal Knights will ensure their safety from now on. Blind joins her and leads his elite unit into battle against the enemy. With a swift dash, he lands a devastating blow on one of the demons, causing it to stagger. Alka follows up by dismounting from her horse and conjuring a barrage of ice spears, which rain down upon the malevolent knights, taking out several of them. Yui observes in awe, impressed by the might of the knights who saved them. Setsu agrees, flashing a smile, and suggests that they leave the danger zone once the battle ends. The group is escorted back to the kingdom, where they are granted an audience with the king. He expresses his gratitude for their timely arrival, acknowledging them as foreign heroes. The king reveals that their land is under attack by demons, and that a similar group of heroes from a foreign world saved them during the previous war, which occurred 5 years ago. He considers this a manifestation of destiny. The students' bewilderment prompts the queen to assure them of the truth of their situation. She points to a monument commemorating the peace the previous heroes brought to their war-torn world. The queen acknowledges the strange circumstances the students find themselves in, but implores them to help repel the current threat. Though hesitant due to their lack of combat experience, the students concede that they have no other choice and agree to stay and help. The monarch's face lights up with delight as they inform the students that they have already made arrangements for their stay and urge them to take some rest. Setsu promises Yui that he will ensure her safety at all times. Over the next few days, Glein trains the male students in swordsmanship, putting them through drills and preparing them for battle. Meanwhile, Alka teaches the female students the art of magic, using an ice spear to demonstrate. Although the girls find it challenging to follow the instructions, Yui manages to summon fire momentarily, filling her with joy. Setsu secretly observes her and recognizes her natural talent for magic. As Setsu returns to his own training, he coincidentally crosses paths with Alka. She immediately criticizes him for slacking off on his first day. Holding a wooden sword, Alka emphasizes the imminent war, stating that casual behavior towards superiors is not acceptable. Unfazed by her warning, Setsu stands his ground. Setsu pays little attention to Alka's warnings and dismisses her criticism, but his nonchalant attitude triggers a memory in her mind. She recalls the hero from 5 years ago, who was also confident and self-centered, just like Setsu. Alka warns him about the dangers of the world and advises him to focus on his training, but Setsu remains stubborn and challenges her to make him comply. Alka decides to teach him a lesson, and without warning, she charges at him with her wooden sword. However, Setsu's quick reflexes allow him to dodge her attack effortlessly, and he playfully slaps her buttocks from behind. Alka is taken aback, but she soon recognizes the technique and realizes that Setsu is the hero they have been waiting for. She addresses him as master and expresses her joy at seeing him again. Setsu is amused by Alka's reaction and finds her behavior strange, noting that she has become more of a masochist since they last met. He asks how long she's going to be like that. She gazes at him with adoration, and she apologizes for forgetting her duty as his human chair. However, he tells her that he never asked for such a thing. In the next moment, Setsu finds himself seated on her, and she notices that his weight feels different. Alka confesses that she finds pleasure in serving him and addressing him as her master. Setsu gently rebuffs Alka's affectionate behavior. Glein walks by and is confused by the situation. Alka excitedly informs him that Setsu has returned with a new group of heroes. Line is initially skeptical that the man before him is the same Setsu he knows, but he accepts it given Alka's enthusiastic demeanor. The three of them head to Thea's lab to share the news, but Thea is already aware and welcomes Setsu back. The others are surprised, but Setsu had anticipated that Thea would quickly recognize him. He explains that, despite his new appearance, she couldn't mistake his magic power. He's pleased that they are all safe and that he could fulfill his promise to return. The conversation then turns to the topic of the new war against the demons, and they move to a more secluded location to discuss it. They're curious about how Setsu returned to their world and why he looks so different. According to their understanding, he disappeared after the battle. Setsu looks at the marks of his final clash with Toma, the villain. He recalls the events after the battle, explaining that he was reborn in a different world while retaining his memories and magic power. After a while, he found himself summoned into this new world once again. They are all unsure about the circumstances surrounding his arrival, but they are certain that it is not a mere coincidence. Setsu is particularly interested in knowing what happened to Toma after his departure. He suspects that the villain may be behind the ongoing war, given the way the demons are being controlled by a curse. Toma is the only one capable of such manipulation. Alka reveals that they have been searching for the villain, but their efforts have yielded no results. However, Setsu's presence suggests that there is a high possibility that Toma has also survived. Their conversation is interrupted by a soldier who informs Glein that the king requires his immediate presence. Glein makes his way to the throne room, where the king is holding a war meeting. The king expresses regret over striking a peace deal with the demons and declares that the kingdom will now wage an all-out war against them. Glein stands up and pleads with the king to exercise patience. He points out that the emissary they sent to the demonic continent has yet to reply, and it would be wise to await their response before taking further action. The queen argues that the demons were the ones who initiated the conflict with their unprovoked invasion, and that justice is on their side. The other officers agree, applauding her point, but Glein watches on with concern. The king, on the other hand, remains steadfast in his decision to declare war on the demons, citing the hero's disappearance as a sign from God that they need to unite the world. Meanwhile, Yui focuses on honing her magic skills, quickly progressing to a level where she destroys an avatar. Setsu commends her natural talent, but Yui is hesitant, worrying about the destructive nature of their magical abilities and questioning the need for war. Her earnestness moves Setsu, and he starts to ponder if there is another way to resolve the conflict. Yui's sudden burst of determination and her vow to protect Setsu fills him with a sense of gratitude and motivation. Later that night, the hero rendezvous with the trio at the wall. Claim informs them that an all-out war seems inevitable, but he has managed to buy some time. As he suggests that the newcomers require further training, Setsu interrupts him, revealing his plan to once again take on the task of ending the war on his own. The trio, inspired by Setsu's bravery, volunteers to serve as his guard. However, Setsu advises them that their presence is equally vital within the kingdom, as they may face enemy attacks the following day. With Thea's magical assistance, they stealthily approach the special storage area. However, Alka, unable to contain her enthusiasm, charges ahead and swiftly neutralizes the guard. Her impulsive action triggers memories of their past dungeon exploration, and they successfully gain access to the room. Yui's intuition kicks in as she notices Setsu's strange behavior, but she decides to continue walking with her new companions. Meanwhile, the seasoned hero makes his way straight to his trusty sword, Kuramaru, which he hasn't wielded in some time, and greets it with reverence. The other guards discover their unconscious comrade and sound the alarm. Blaine and Thea stay behind to cover for Alka, who is helping Setsu escape. However, Thea insists that Alka should follow Setsu instead of staying behind, as she will only hinder him by trying to guide him. Setsu drags her away while she pleads for him to be gentle. Before parting ways, Setsu bids farewell to Alka, who promises to delay the war as much as possible to aid in his mission. As Setsu is about to depart, Yui catches up to them, having followed her instincts. Yui rushes towards Setsu and grabs hold of him, asking where he is headed. Setsu opens up to her, confessing that this is not his first time being summoned to this world and that he needs to meet an old acquaintance to stop the impending war. Yui pleads to come with him, promising that she will be useful, but he declines, stating that it's too dangerous for her. Setsu must undertake this journey alone. He doesn't want to put Yui in harm's way. She concedes, but before he leaves, she asks him to close his eyes. He thinks that she's going to give him a goodbye kiss. However, Yui surprises him with her significantly improved magic control, using wind and fire magic to cut his hair without his consent. With both his eyes now showing, Yui promises to get stronger so that she can protect him. Setsu flicks her head playfully, stating that he will know if she has gotten stronger if she dodges it next time. After saying his goodbyes, Setsu sets off on his journey, leaving Yui behind. Scene changes, and we see a strikingly beautiful girl with sapphire eyes beckon to her grandpa. He was an accomplished ironsmith, known for creating the most wondrous and extraordinary objects that drew the awe of all those who dared to inquire about them. However, he was also quite fastidious about who he would sell his items to, reserving them only for those who understood their true worth. His pride in his creations was unyielding, but when a persuasive man presented him with a bag of glittering gold coins, the old man found himself wavering. The little girl, who had been watching the transaction with trepidation, could hardly believe her eyes as her grandpa handed over the prized brooch to the man. After the man had left, Ruri asked her grandfather why he had given in and sold the treasured item. The old man imparted a valuable lesson, explaining that such items could only be sold for a worthy price. Years passed, and Ruri found herself standing by her grandfather's grave, reminiscing about his last wish. She was determined to fulfill it at any cost and set out with her inventory under the moon's eerie glow. Suddenly, she heard a blood-curdling growl that sent shivers down her spine. Her horse refused to move despite her coaxing, and as she turned to look, she saw a demon wolf with fiery red eyes hurtling towards her without any warning. The beast leapt onto her carriage, overturning it and causing Ruri and her precious brooch to tumble out in a haze of fear and confusion. The memory of the demon wolf had completely slipped Ruri's mind, and she was focused on the fact that her grandfather would be furious if she lost the brooch. She stowed the precious item in her bag and turned around, only to find herself staring into the creature's ghastly red eyes. Her body trembled with fear as she braced herself for an attack, knowing that the wolf was not after her wealth but her flesh. Despite her pleadings, the wolf showed no mercy and was about to pounce when Setsu appeared out of nowhere and swiftly vanquished the ferocious creature with one deft blow. Ruri breathed a sigh of relief as she opened her eyes to find herself unscathed. Grateful for his timely intervention, Ruri offered Setsu a substantial sum of money, but he refused, leaving her bewildered. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that nothing in this world is free. Setsu understood the old man's fiery temperament and advised Ruri to hire guards if she wished to deliver anything valuable in the future. Ruri was in a bind. She needed a bodyguard, but there was no time to find one. That's when she noticed Setsu, who bore a striking resemblance to the man her grandfather sold the brooch to 5 years ago. She offered him the job, promising payment. Setsu was hesitant, having other important tasks to attend to, but her despondent expression tugged at his heartstrings and he agreed to accompany her to the nearby town. As they set out from the dark forest, Setsu assured Ruri that he didn't need her money. This saddened her as she had to leave her inventory behind to join him. She also kept the contents of her backpack a secret, which Setsu respected without pressing her further. The next day, they arrived in Marsen, a bustling part of town where trade had flourished since the war 5 years ago. Ruri asked Setsu if he lived there, to which he replied that he did, having been there before the trading system was established. They pressed on, and after leaving Marsen, Ruri sought passage on a ship to her destination. But the captain refused, stating that the Demon continent was prohibited, and all routes were closed. Due to her inability to find a captain willing to take her to the Demon continent, she implores Setsu to accompany her. Despite her pleading, all the captains she asked refused to take her to the prohibited area. While trying to leave the area, the Knights of Destinia stop her and demand to see her merchant ID, claiming there are many cheaters in the area. Although she hands over her card, they are still rude to her and insist on seeing her back, which she refuses to show them. Ruri explains that there is something important in her bag that she does not want to reveal, but the knights attempt to take it from her by force. However, Setsu arrives and stops them from touching her. He introduces himself as Ruri's bodyguard and demands to know their identities, warning them against being thieves in disguise. The knights warn Setsu to stay out of the matter and not to challenge them, but he cannot leave Ruri alone in their company. As tensions rise, both sides draw their swords. As they stood there, they overheard voices whispering about how the knights were once again causing trouble for the civilians. The knights fled the scene, but they were not about to forget this insult. They vowed to seek revenge at another time. Ruri was overjoyed by Setsu's quick thinking and bravery in handling the situation. She couldn't help but hug him tightly. Later that evening, Ruri offered Setsu sandwiches as a token of her gratitude. She continued to praise him for his heroic actions, but Setsu turned the tables and applauded her bravery instead. He admired her ability to maintain a positive attitude despite being bullied by scoundrels like the knights. Ruri blushed as she listened to Setsu's words and couldn't help but ask why he had asked about the knight's license to check people's belongings. In the royals who strictly followed the rules. The badges on the knights' uniforms gave them the right to search people's belongings, but they were lying and needed to be put in their place. Setsu was also worried about Ruri's journey to the Demon continent, but he was impressed by her determination to continue despite the many rejections she had faced. Ruri had even decided to inquire about all the captains who could take her there, and if they refused, she was willing to buy a ship and travel alone. Setsu was touched by her unwavering determination and gave her good news. He would accompany her on her journey, but only if she rested first. They would set off to their destination the following day. Ruri insists that she doesn't need to rest, eager to proceed as quickly as possible. But Setsu persuades her not to burden herself and reminds her of the importance of taking care of herself. Reluctantly, she agrees to spend the night at a hotel as he suggests. When she proposes sharing the same room to save expenses, Setsu emerges from his deep thoughts and agrees. Setsu feels refreshed after taking a bath and encourages Ruri to do the same. However, before she freshens up, she decides to reveal the mystery and entrusts Setsu with something precious. In reality, Ruri wants to share a story with Setsu, one that involves her grandfather, a skilled and renowned jeweler. No one could surpass his craftsmanship. One day, a customer approached him with a damaged brooch, one that happened to be her grandfather's masterpiece. Despite in his last time, her grandfather dedicated himself to fixing it flawlessly within a short time. On his deathbed, her grandfather revealed many things and imparted a lesson about valuing money over pride. In the present moment, Ruri opens the box and displays the brooch to Setsu, who recognizes it as his own. Entrusting him with the responsibility of safeguarding the precious item, she excuses herself to take a bath. With gratitude in her heart, Ruri thanks the heavens for the capable guard who stands by her side. She is confident that they can complete their mission together. Meanwhile, Setsu examines the brooch, and as soon as he touches it, smoke billows forth. The smoke indicates that Setsu is the brooch's rightful owner and that he has cast a protective spell upon it. Unfortunately, the spell has been broken, suggesting that something terrible has occurred. As Setsu drifts off to sleep, he hopes for the best. However, he is awoken by the sound of police officers who have come seeking revenge. They threaten the hotel's owner, accusing him of providing shelter to spies and warn him of the consequences. Setsu knows that the officers intend to go to great lengths to seek their revenge. When the officers enter the room, Ruri trembles in fear. But Setsu swiftly carries her out of the window and away to safety. His movements are so fast that the officers cannot even figure out which way he has gone. While they give chase, Ruri weeps in terror, afraid of what may come. Despite the trash-filled alleyway, Setsu manages to elude the officers, leaping over them and leaving them behind. Eventually, they reach a dead end with their enemies closing in. The officers are furious, having been put through so much trouble. They refuse to accept apologies and are determined to teach Setsu and Ruri a lesson. However, Setsu boldly stands up to them, refusing to apologize and wondering who the real troublemakers are. Ignoring their threats, he instructs Ruri to make her way to the Demon continent. Setsu's words were like a spell to Ruri as she felt herself flying off the top. Although she was sobbing in fear, she also felt a strange excitement at the same time. Setsu then summoned his powerful companion, Levia, a giant monster emerging from the water for them to ride on. Despite the suddenness of it all, Setsu apologized to Levia for the short notice. As they rode on Levia's back, Ruri couldn't help but feel a mix of wonder and terror at the sight of the colossal creature. Meanwhile, the guards who witnessed their departure chose to keep it a secret, dismissing it as a mere dream. Ruri realized that Levia was actually Leviathan, the god of the ocean, and yet Setsu was able to command this powerful creature. She wondered who this enigmatic person was that she had hired as her guard. As they continued on their journey, Setsu suddenly turned to Ruri and explained that they were on a demonic continent. This brings an end to our video. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.